Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Jason Whitehead, and this is another episode of the Jason's Take On, joined today with my co-host, Jason Noble, over in the UK. I want to thank you all for joining us, and we'll just spend a couple minutes doing some quick housekeeping things, and then we'll get right into it. So just a couple of quick things. We try to target for a max of 45 minutes for this episode. So we'll be going through and recording it as we go. And we do ask that if you have any questions, please type them into the Q&A box as we go. We usually take questions at the end, but you can enter them at any time. So appreciate that. We did get a couple in advance already, which is great. Also want to let you know, for everyone who's subscribed, we will be sending out some newsletter and updates periodically. So check your email box for the Jasons. We'll be sending it out. So we're really excited about that, and we'll have more content going forward. We also wanted to let you know about a couple of training services that we'll be launching very soon. The Jasons will be launching our own special training around various customer success topics aligned with our webinar series. So that'll be coming soon. And also separately, the Tritons, I have launched Customer Success Mastermind in its collaboration with Success Track Enterprise, and it's a subscription-based customer success training and professional development program. So check it out at csmastermind.com or tritons.com. Also, if you haven't been to our website yet, the Jason's Take On, we've got a variety of resources and where you can sign up for future episodes, replays, contact us, all kinds of great things. And we wanted to announce today that we're very excited that very soon we're going to be adjusting our format, and we're also looking to have some guest speakers come on the show with us as well too. So if you are interested in joining us as a guest, or if you would like to nominate someone for guest, please go to the Contact Us page at thejasonstakeon.com and let us know how to get in touch and who you recommend, or if you're volunteering, that would be great. So just a little quick intro about my background. I'm founder and CEO of Tritons. I've been working in the customer success and user adoption space for over 20 years now, primarily doing consulting and training work, and have worked with some great clients, helping them do everything from map out their strategy to building and training their teams, to doing internal alignment to really help sales, service, marketing, the executive suite all come together. So I've seen quite a bit and worked in a lot of different industries. It's just a real pleasure to be here today and to share a little bit of my knowledge with you guys, and hope you enjoy this. And with that, I will turn it over to my co-host, Jason Noble, so he can introduce himself. Jason?
Hey there, great to be here, Jason. Really looking forward to this conversation. And good morning, good afternoon to everybody. I'm Jason Noble, based over here in London, the United Kingdom. I'm currently the VP of Global Customer Success for a technology organization called Vinley that deal with the world of connected cars, based over in Dallas. So I'm here building up their European operation. Similarly to Jason, I've been around in the kind of the post-sales field of technology for a good number of years now, with kind of about 8, 9, 10 years experience in the world of customer success. And I think this topic is something that is a really key one, is what do people do about technology? How does it align with what you're doing? So really excited about this. Really excited also, as Jason said, about kind of looking at another format where we can have guests on there. And we'd really like to know if anybody knows anybody that would be a good guest for us to speak to, or anybody wants to join us, please do let us know. As we've done on the other podcasts and webinars, what we want to do is pose a question to the audience, our Be Bold challenge. And the challenge for this webinar here is, what creative ways have you or can you use technology to better drive scalable customer success beyond looking at the kind of more standard ideas of CRM and customer success management or customer success automation platforms? So we'd love to know your thoughts on that. Let us know. Put the points in there in our LinkedIn group. Do let us know, and let's have a real good conversation going around that. And at the end of the episode, we're going to go through and give you 3 specific takeaways for you that we've talked about through the session. So we'll come on to those at the end of the session. Jason.
Yeah, great. Thanks for that. I'm really looking forward to reading people's answers to the Be Bold question, because I know a lot of clients are like, what can we do now when we don't have a full automation platform to really have a huge impact? How can we really grow and scale? And there's a lot of opportunity to get creative, and I'd love to see what other people are doing and what they recommend. But to kick us off, Jason, why don't you answer and let us know, why are we talking about this topic, and what's so important about it to us on how using CS technology stack?
I think it's a great question to start it off. We've all been in organizations where you come in and there either is technology, there isn't technology, there's a real mix. And understanding what you need to do, why you need to do it is so fundamental. And I think one of the key things is it's finding the right technology stack for you, where you are, for the business maturity that you've got there. And it changes as your business changes and your customers changes. So there isn't a one answer fits all or a one size fits all approach. And I think that's really key to understand. So as businesses go through that maturity curve, start off being very reactive, it's not unusual, and it's not a problem if a lot of what you do is based out of spreadsheets. You then need to kind of focus on how do we mature and grow that. But I think understanding where you are in your maturity, knowing what technology stack is best for you, is fundamental to how you grow and scale your business effectively and cost efficiently. I think the key thing when you look at technology, the technology we use in customer success is there to help us scale and grow. We can't scale just by adding more CSMs, build out the teams. That just doesn't work. It's not cost efficient to do it. You lose things like standardization, consistency. So we want to look at technology. It's all around how do we scale and introduce automation, drive more services and value for our customers. And by using the right technology, it allows you to build these consistent and repeatable processes that grow with us. And I think the key thing is it's moving away from that reliance on individual CSM or other professional person's expertise. So you're not reliant on just the individual. The individual clearly plays a key role still, but there's a lot more into it as well, which is really important. The tech stack then really allows you to get that true 360-degree view of your customer base, that single view of the customer, I like to call it, to see all your critical customer data, both at the aggregate level and then more at a granular per customer level. So it allows you to dive down and look at what the different customers are doing. The be bold statement there is we also have the opportunity to look at new and creative ways of how we use technology. As we said, not just around CS automation and platforms, CRM, but how do you engage with customers differently and help them achieve success on the road? So we'd really like people to have a think about it. We've said that's part of the be bold question, but what other areas can you look at technology here for driving what you're doing? Jason, I'm going to throw the second question back to you. How does your tech stack change? And as I said, is there an ideal tech stack, and what are some of the ideas that you've got around there?
Yeah, I think it definitely has to change over time as your CS operations mature and as your organization grows and scales. I'm not sure if there's necessarily a complete ideal one, but when I look at this, I think of it as sort of when you're starting out with customer success, many times we start out very reactive, and now we're trying to get proactive, and then we're trying to move to actually being predictive. And what does that need to look like? And how do we make sure we're capturing and analyzing the data correctly to be able to do all of those things and to make that progression through there? So I think your tech stack definitely needs to change, and you need to be focused on the idea of, I need to capture the data today that I'm going to need to be able to use tomorrow, and what does that look like? But the reality is, though, that so many of us are still in spreadsheets in our day-to-day business, and I think a lot of customer success often starts there or there with some CRM work as well, and that's okay, especially for small organizations that are just starting out, really trying to grow, or if it's individuals trying to develop their own ways of working. So there are a lot of customer success teams out there where there's one hire. They don't need a full stack initially right off the bat, but it's nice to be able to progress from there. And I think as you're looking through service offerings, as your product grows, as your customer numbers grow, as your team grows, as your service offerings grow, obviously your tech stack has to continue to evolve and mature as well. And Jason recently shared with me this great post from Nilesh Sharana at Customer Success Box, talking about CS technology maturity model. He just does such a great job in there of articulating when you're this size, here's when you can probably migrate from Excel to a CS platform, and you're this size, here's what it needs to look like, here's where you need to go. And we're going to post that into the LinkedIn group on the Jason's Take On LinkedIn group, but really recommend it. It's just so well written and really puts some hard numbers behind it, which I found so helpful. But coming back to your question, Jason, there really isn't one ideal tech stack, I don't think, really at different stages. It's what's most relevant to the stage that you're in. And as you grow mature, your CS team and your sales team and all those things, how do you move forward? So obviously, most organizations either start with spreadsheets, then have some version of the CRM and try to do some tracking in there, some sort of support platform for tracking tickets, and then you get to all your subscription management tools. And there's a lot of great customer feedback, advocacy, and survey tools as well. Customer data analytics, community management, all these great things are all coming together, and marketing communication tools. Trying to figure out the bits and pieces from all of those that work well for you and can really create that ideal customer experience is pretty critical. So it does take time to really think through how to use all that stuff well in efficiency. But I also think there's looking at, especially for smaller organizations, what are some other technology that you might use too? So where might you use webinars and emails and LinkedIn groups to engage with your customer and think through those platforms that are out there that you may not necessarily think of as a customer success technology, but can definitely be used as part of that function. There's also a lot of people progressing to learning management systems and online communities to really help educate customers. And a lot of this education is not just on their particular product or function, but a lot of the education for customers may be how to drive adoption and change management so that they get the outcome they want. Or other groups can do things such as how to show them, here's how you complete a business process better. Here's what's done inside our technology platform, but here are the expertise and domain knowledge you need to know outside of it. And I've seen some software vendors who do a really great job of that. And they're really targeting their existing customers to try and be able to do that, but they make it publicly available so that prospective customers can also come and take a look and go from there. I think that's just great ways to go. So I would encourage people as you're looking at this to really get creative with additional upskilling and customer engagement tools that you can use that would put that end-to-end piece of really helping your customers get the value that they need. So that's sort of my view on the ideal tech stack and how to mature through that. But Jason, I want to turn back to you now. How can we best use technology to align with other parts of the business? And what tools do you think we need to do it?
I think this is a really key one. Just before I dive into this, what I'd say is that talking point that you went through about the different technology stacks, depending on where you are, I think is so key, because a lot of people kind of come into this and think I need a full-blown CSM platform and need it from day one. Now, that it might not be what you need for your business, so you've got to look at where you are. And as Jason said, that link that we'll share is a really, really great post that really goes through that. But I think one of the things that you've got to be very conscious of is that businesses, and your business already has a lot of technology tools and services being used. If you look at the sales team, the marketing team, the support team, part of what we need to do is kind of figure out what does the broader technology landscape look like within our organization, figure out how do we build into what's already there and integrate with it. So you've really got to look at that. Don't look at customer success in isolation. I think it goes back to a lot of the other conversations that we've had, that we're there almost as kind of the ultimate facilitator to help everybody work together to understand about the customer better. And by working with all these different systems, it really helps. But what I think it's really key to do is kind of look at each of these three, so sales, marketing, and support. And if you start with sales, I think sales really should be the most aligned group for customer success. We need to be so close to how they're working to understand customers that are coming through onboarding, the handover process. I think that the key is we need visibility of whatever customer relationship management tool they're using, even if it's a spreadsheet, but get visibility of that so we understand about the sales cycle, the sales funnels. We understand about the conversations that have gone on with customers. We can help the sales team as well. And there's a lot of benefit for what we've said before is getting your success team involved in those conversations before the deals are closed. And you can really bring case studies to light, advocacy to light. I think that's so important to do. Really get visibility of your existing customers, the future customers, and what success means there to them. Make sure that the sales team are capturing kind of what the outcomes are for the customers, what they need. And I think start with the core CRM, really for tracking, maintaining your core customer data as that initial point in the customer journey. So who's the organization? Who are my key contacts there? Where's the organization physically located? What are the financials of the organization? So all of that core data there. I think really a solid CRM allows us then to make sure that we've got processes in place for the handover then from sales to implementation to customer success, as we've spoke about quite a bit. And it ensures that for each of those stages and that handover between the different stages, or hand overlap as we call it, but you make sure you capture all the necessary details as part of that process. And particularly when they come in through sales, I want to make sure we're capturing objectives, the customer expectations, the outcomes. So really think about that. On the marketing side of it, I think the right marketing technology and tools really allow us to move from being focused around purely on lead gen and new business to a real mix between that side of it, the lead generation, but also customer marketing, where we're driving value conversations with existing customers. So on things like product improvements, our roadmaps, conversations with the product team, there may be surveys we're doing, they may have a customer community, but really getting the feedback from the customers and engaging them in what they're doing. So that voice of the customer. I think as part of that shift as well, going from just being about new business to existing customers in the mix, you really need to make sure that with marketing, we have the right consistent messages that are on brand, and getting that right is so critical. So working with marketing to make sure there's an alignment there is really important to do, and using the technology that marketing have got to allow us to represent the brand properly. And I think we need to think about where marketing currently starts. So marketing, as I've said, currently in most organizations is focused on lead generation, but how do you help them make that shift to how do they market to existing customers and put that value and outcome focus on the marketing effort? So it really helps empower our marketing team if we use the technology with them, both aligned so that we can share that, and the integration between whatever we're using in customer success, but getting visibility of what our marketing colleagues are using to see when surveys go out, to see what conversations they're having, to understand kind of the journey of customers and prospects through our website and through our tools. The third area that I think is key to talk about, and that we need really tight alignment on with tools, is the area of support. And there's always a big area in customer success where we have to be reactive. We're helping the support team, but you need that separate supporting ticketing tool, that incident management tool that our support team use and can focus on for dealing with all the incidents and the issues and the problems that come in. But your CS team need visibility of the key data from that. That includes things like call and support trends. So looking overall at the top level, I want to know what my call volumes are like, what my chat volumes are like. Is there a pattern over time? Is there a pattern at different times of the year when certain events are on? But then as we're doing with sales and success, be able to dive down at a granular level and have a look at per customer level, what's going on for different customers. Are the trends there? Are the problems that would say there's not a challenge at a customer, or there is perhaps when they're logging no tickets? I always remember a conversation with Dan Steinman. I think it's a really key one that if people are logging support tickets, it's not a problem. That shows that there's good engagement, good use of the product. When there are no support tickets coming in from a customer, that's a problem. That typically would mean there's customers are not engaged, there's a problem, and we need to be aware of it. So understanding at the per customer level what call volumes are like is critical. Also understanding the severity of calls that are coming in. You know, if there's 7-1 issues, I want my success team to have visibility of those. So by making sure that we've got interactions with the support team, the support tools, we can do that. But also start looking at things like customer satisfaction, any feedback. Most organizations track CSAT at a support level. So every support interaction, they'll ask for feedback. It's quite often the starting point for customer satisfaction. And when that happens, how do we get visibility of that feedback? How do I get visibility from my success team to then take actions on it? And I think that's so important to do. And I think, again, what we ideally want to move to is a point where our success tools or platform can be integrated with that data from support. So rather than just having to look at 3 or 4 different platforms, we can get all of that data pushed into our success platform, be it a full-blown automation platform, be it a kind of a place on our CRM platform, kind of a side of the CRM platform that allows us to do that, or be it in some more manual processes. But I think they're really cool. So the focus is really key on that kind of sales, marketing, and support efforts. Jason, I'll throw the next question back to you. What do you see kind of the challenges and new needs that we're going to see when you look at things like system integration internally and alignment, and how do they kind of expose in an organization? So how do we push for that need for better internal alignment?
Yeah, I think everything you just talked about of having shared systems with sales and service and marketing and all that great stuff is really important, but it will always bring to life some internal disruptions that happen. So for example, many times as you're trying to have customer success come onto these tools, you may find that there's a gap in the process or a gap in the data that's been there, and it's been there for quite a while, but no one ever had a compelling reason to try to resolve it before. And we've seen with a lot of customers where the customer success team struggles because they don't have the information that they need to really service customers well. Sales never put it in. There was no transition call. There was no detail there to allow them to actually provide the great service that they need to customers to help make them successful. So the simple act of trying to align your technology will shed some light on some really core issues internally that I think will get people to have to think about how they align internally. And I've seen a lot of political issues come up. I've seen a lot of conflict come up because it started as a technology integration, then there were process gaps, and there were behavior gaps all the way through. So really give some thought to that. And we talk about CRM in this 360-degree view of customers, and that's really been the promise of CRM for the last 20 years. But I think in most organizations, it really doesn't happen. There's some gap there in terms of data or the way systems are used or how things are aligned, that it's great to aspire to that and to work towards that goal, but a lot of problems are going to come to light. I think you'll also start to see that you'll need to get all the groups in your organization to really focus more on how they drive adoption of existing tools as well. So how do we make better use of the CRM? How do we make better use of these other tools so that we realize that it's not just us trying to perform our individual jobs well, but part of our job is to enable everyone else in the organization to perform their job well. And I think a lot of organizations struggle with this because it really does require you to look at how are we collaborating? How are we actually working together? And are we using the tools in a way that allows that to happen? And so many times I think there's some real problems there that it's going to be a huge shift, and you need to be prepared for that. You need to make sure your executives are prepared for that. And you'll probably need to do a lot of work to try and get those things all aligned. And it's getting people in organizations aligned is a lot harder than getting the technology integrated. So be prepared for that. And this really is a bigger topic on how to align sales and customer success and get executive support. And we've covered that in a couple of our other episodes. So if you haven't seen them, recommend people go and check those out. But I think there's also a couple of other things as you start to look at some of this technology integration. So one is, as you start to get this 360 view and as you start to get some of these tools in place, looking at, do you have the skills and insight to actually make better decisions and engage customers better and more effectively because of the tools and what you have? So, all right, we've got all this great data, but can we actually perform the analysis we need and hypothesis testing to go through and say, what do we do with it? Sort of the so what. Similarly, I think when you start to look at a lot of automations that so many platforms have, okay, you can send out an email, you can trigger people to do something, but what is the content that you're sending them? Do you have the domain expertise on how to help them get value outside of your product, inside of your product, whatever that needs to look like? So really, it's not just about being able to get the tools to work, but actually making sure that the content and the expertise of the messaging that you're sending is pretty key. So I think those are some of the challenges as you start to really get your tech stack together and you start to work through some of these, you're going to realize, wow, there's a much bigger issue here. It can be a real challenge. So those are some of the things that we've seen and have seen it come up time and time again in organizations as they start to build out their customer success practices and tool sets. So be aware of that if that's you. But with that as a backdrop, I do want to flip this back to you now, Jason, and let's talk about customer success management platforms and where do they fit into all of this?
I think it's a great question. Your kind of answer there builds into it really well. And I think a lot of people see kind of the CSM platform as the kind of almost holy grail that you absolutely need. And there is absolutely a place for it. But I think you've also got to look at where you are in your maturity cycle. And the question that we had in beforehand was asking kind of when do you need to start looking at kind of that level of technology? Right? And I think just to answer that question, I think one of the key things is, for me, there's kind of two different dimensions or three dimensions. One is how big's your team? So in terms of CSMs, how many customers have you got and how complex they are, but also kind of how mature are you in terms of how you're delivering it. And I think as each of those three things grow, then the need for a CSM platform to focus on that integration, that single view of the customer and automation becomes even more critical. But many of them are significant investments both of time and resource and money, but they do add significant value once you're at that right stage. I think the key things with a customer success platform, and I'll use customer success automation or customer success management platform, I'll use the two terms interchangeably, because for me, that platform ultimately provides both of those things. I think ultimately what they allow you to do is bring together kind of the traditional different disjointed data sets on the customer. So you've got, as I've talked through, your data from support, your data from sales, the data from marketing, the data from product. How do you present all that in one consistent standard view that can drive value across your organization, right from your founders, your CEO, your execs, down to every single person in the organization, make sure those dashboards are shared at the right level. So I think that is so important to do that. And you can also kind of pivot and show different dimensions of the data, different analyses of the data. So I think that is a real big benefit of it. What you can also do with a kind of a customer success platform, it allows you to start looking at customer segmentation. So you can create and define different segments. You can create and define your customer journey. You can build into your customer journey for the different segments key milestones and triggers as part of that, really then to use them to drive value more proactively to customers. And I think that becomes really critical. So as you grow in maturity, the ability to drive more value to more customers and across a more complex product set, you need a platform to let you do that. The other areas around automation, as we said earlier on, that you cannot grow your team just by adding people at it. You need to think about your process. And I'd always say, before you go in to any exercise of evaluating and buying a CSM platform, have a look at your own processes, because the best situation is to have those processes all mapped out and then map them straight into the situation. And you will have most of these processes. They might be at different levels of maturity, but knowing where you are lets you then start with a CSM platform and a really good place to do it. I think the other key things you can start doing with a customer success platform is, as I said, the automation side of it. You can build in your journeys there, but it allows you to do consistent journeys and consistent processes for customers. So everybody's getting that right level of experience for what they need, rather than it all sit with individuals and sit with individual CSMs who have to rely on their own expertise. I think the other key thing to not forget about a customer success management platform is the idea of customer health scores, customer risks. With a customer success platform, it allows you to kind of put in place algorithms, scores that allow you to build up customer health scores, rather than them be just completely subjective and I as a CSM think that's red, I think it's amber, I think it's green. Allow you to put some more logic around it, which I think really begins to introduce a lot of more value to you as an organization, to understand where they are and understand what triggers make a customer move from the other. So that's really important. You also get, I think, a lot better visibility of churn and the renewal risk or churn risk of a customer. So defining risk matrices: when is a customer at risk? When do I kickstart proactive conversations with them? And I think to do that efficiently and at scale, that really, for me, is where a customer success platform really comes into its own. As you said, there are a lot of them out there. Both Jason and I have used many of them. What we're not going to do in this conversation is kind of make recommendations down there, but kind of what we want to do is just talk you through the different ideas and how the different tools and technologies kind of come together. Which kind of brings me on to kind of one of the next questions, and I'll throw this one back to you, Jason. How does this all fit together? I've talked about CSM platforms. You've talked about that internal alignment. We've talked about the need to do it, but how does it all come together?
Yeah, I think it's such a challenge for a lot of organizations, and I'm suddenly thinking about one of those pictures that you see with all the different logos of what fits in what space, and there's so many vendors for everything. And I think I read a stat the other day that there's over 350 CRM vendors out there, and every day I'm learning about a new customer success management platform that's coming up and coming into the space. And I think they're going to continue to have that happen. The point here is there really are multiple sets of technology that we need to use in customer success, and bringing them all together to drive value and outcomes is pretty key. And that really only works when we get all the different data and tools to play nicely together. But making sure you can bring back actionable data and insights back to the customer success managers, and that the CSMs know what actions to take and what's going to be impactful and what's not. So I think that those are some big challenges. And with that said, too, from a technology perspective, the integration can be really hard. And making sure that you have the completeness and the accuracy is really key. I've been to quite a few meetups lately around customer success, and inevitably I always run into at least one person, sometimes multiple, who their company is getting rid of their customer success management platform. Either it was too expensive, or they weren't ready for it, or they will tell me, oh, we're on our second or third implementation of implementing XYZ platform. The first time we did it, and it was long and expensive and hard, and then we couldn't get it right. We had the wrong data, we were doing the wrong things, our processes weren't mature enough. So now we're doing a complete re-implementation. And in some instances, they're actually switching platforms as part of the re-implementation. So I think you really need to be careful about that and understanding what you're getting into. I've also met several firms where they're trying to build their own, which seems, they may have very legitimate reasons for that, but by and large, the companies that try and build their own, it seems to take them longer and cost more than if they'd gone out and purchased an external application that might not have all their functionality, but sometimes there are legitimate reasons to do that for privacy and security and those kind of things. So that's always an interesting thing here. I think also looking at this, it's not fast and easy and cheap to get them going. So making sure that you're really ready for it. And it also takes time to drive effective adoption of your CSM platform and getting your CSMs to use it effectively and to get the most functionality out of it. So, it's kind of interesting that we have to have a tool to help us drive adoption of a tool, of another tool, and just sort of continuing through. So I do encourage that just to be careful, but all this is to say, really, as you're thinking about technology, I've yet to find a company that said we should have gone faster with our technology. Most of them that I've encountered seem to make sure, like, make sure you get your processes a little bit mature, make sure you get your strategies down and you understand your ideal customer, and then you're not pivoting too much, because it can be tough if you're in the middle of an organization pivot and suddenly the tool no longer is set up to work the way that you need to going forward. So do be careful about that. And a lot of the customers I've spoken with, they said, we've talked with all of the vendors and we've realized through that process that we've got a lot of things to do to get our foundation straight before we can actually absorb this technology and get use out of it. So, I think that is something to consider. And, I think also as you're looking at these tools and looking at how you're going to use them to integrate with your customer, don't lose sight of, okay, the tool can do these great, wonderful things, but is that what's really going to happen? If we do these things, will that help our customer get value? Or are there other steps that we should be doing outside of automations that really will help them get more value for us? So making sure you understand where does your customers are struggling to get value with your tool, with your software, and with your solution, and then selecting the right technology to help you solve that problem, and then mature from there. So that's just some thoughts on how it might all fit together. But Jason, as we think about this, and we talked about CSM platforms and CRM and all that kind of stuff, what other tools might a CS team use to drive success in their customers?
I think this is a really key thing, because there are, we all use spreadsheets in our daily lives. We've all used CRM. You've talked about some of the key ideas and different tools out there that we can use, but there are other new tools that are coming onto the market all the time, and you can't underestimate what we can do with those. A couple that I'd kind of talk through here. I think one is LinkedIn. So absolutely use LinkedIn groups. There are a number of customer success community networks as well, where people share best practice ideas. The Customer Success Association is a great one, the Customer Success Network that both Jason and I are members of. Really encourage you to use those. There's a lot of conversations out there around communities. And in LinkedIn, as I said, you can really build kind of relationships with organizations there. You can start relationships with your customers. It gets a bit more insight into kind of the goings on of individuals, what their passions are, what they like doing in the wider world of work, who they're connected with, what kind of their normal talk tracks are. So that's a really key thing. I think you can use video and landing pages really well. You can use kind of call to actions really to track who's kind of coming along and using our different technologies, our different platforms, and working with you there. So there's some really key things there about that better engagement. You can use learning management systems, as you said, Jason, but not just to train on product and how to use the product, but also think about how you can train them on how to drive success, adopting the product, using the product to get value in what other customers have done. A lot of platforms out there now do offer in-product processes. They can set up in-product processes where you can get engagement there to help articles and videos within your product, which is really beneficial. So you can do kind of help around knowledge, expertise, and processes there, which I think is really, really key. There's new functionality that Microsoft have released in the likes of PowerPoint, Microsoft Mix, and similar tools like that. Even Teams from Microsoft that really allow people to drive better engagement, adoption, conversations, and collaboration. I was out with a customer last week that used Teams extensively internally, really to drive adoption of a brand new framework that's being rolled out. And it's great to see that working on a global basis. So that is, how do they drive success for their individual internal customers? There are on-demand webinars, podcasts, similar to this one that Jason and I do, but there's lots of them out there. There's some really incredible people talking with some great ideas. And I think it is an area that is booming right now in terms of conversations that you can hear. There's also in-app support and product engagement. Gainsight recently kind of purchased Apptrinsic, so it's now Gainsight's product experience, which is a really nice offering. UserIQ do a very similar thing, so do WalkMe, AppQs. Mixpanel do a very similar thing there as well about how you use products. So that kind of product and in-app engagement is really key. One of the other things that I think we quite often overlook is the idea of kind of workflow management tools or task tools and project management tools. I always say that everybody is a project manager. Ultimately, we're all in this business of managing projects. If you look at a renewal, it's a time box piece of work, 1 year that you have to manage certain steps like, so you can think like a project manager. But there are tools that allow you to do that, to track what you're doing, to get better visualization of what you're doing, to help you manage those tasks, the priorities, and the workflow. So there are some really simple tools out there that you can use. It doesn't just have to be full-on project management tools that do Gantt charts and the like. There are other ones out there. You can do really nice kind of Kanban analysis of projects and workflows that you're doing. So they really add a different kind of dimension to how you're working, which I think can add a lot of value. I think with all of these tools, you can make some of them, particularly if you look at the project management ones, some portions of these tools can be customer facing. So you can make sure that your customers are kept in the loop and talking about agreed actions for their success plans and how you're working with them. Another key area to talk about is kind of customer collaboration and communication plans. We're all aware of Slack, but there are some other incredible tools out there that allow you to engage both internally to help kind of work better across the business internally and break down those silos. But you also can engage with your customers at the right level and share relevant feedback, relevant documentation. So they really can really give you that instantaneous communication with a customer where you might not have been able to phone them up, and a customer's more aligned with using these collaboration tools. So there's a real nice mix of different tools out there, as we've talked through some examples there. But don't forget, we'd really like to hear how you guys are using kind of tools, or have used tools, or know of new ones coming up that are really going to help you drive kind of better use of it and that creativity internally. Jason, I'm going to kind of throw back to you for the kind of Q&A section, and that question that we had in from one of the listeners beforehand. So when does it make sense to start using a CS Tech tool? And can you kind of give a gauge on, is it reliant on number of accounts, number of customers? Do you look at cost versus recurring revenue? Is there a workload dimension to it? But just kind of talk through your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I really think that it does depend on things like the number of accounts and customers, and also how complex your organization is, and just really where you are in terms of all the priorities and where you are. So I would not recommend doing it too soon. The other thing is making sure that your processes are relatively mature and that you're not automating bad processes or things that just are not going to be effective. So, resisting the urge to jump in too soon. But, I think this is also another time to come back to the article we mentioned from Customer Success Box, which we'll post in the group, which I thought just did such a nice job of breaking this into, 5 levels of maturity here. And they do a nice job of saying, all right, just start with Excel, then move to CRM plus Excel. And they also say, customer support plus CRM plus Excel, and really moving forward. And really, I think they're starting to look at, until you have like 50 plus accounts, they recommend, that's when you need to start looking at some of the customer success platforms and things like that. But they do a nice job even prior to that of breaking it down. And, I think it obviously will change based on your business, but having some hard numbers of what that needs to look like is great. But check out that article, because I think that does a really nice job and can articulate in much more detail than I could. Jason, do you have other thoughts on that?
I'd very much kind of go in line with that. And I think, as I say, kind of for me, there are those 3 dimensions. So it's the size of your team, the size of your customers, and then that maturity level. So I think it's all of those kind of them all mixed together, kind of come up with kind of an ultimate kind of metric as to when you need to do it. And I think you need to look at kind of the maturity of you as a business, and really, where do we need it? Have we got that level of investment? There's no point starting to look at it if you can't get the justification, the budget for it, because you're too early in your cycle. And you don't need, as we've talked through here, there are a lot of different options before you need to get to that. And that article that we'll share is really key, because it kind of talks through the different levels of maturity and the ideal tech stack for those different areas. And I think that's a really key thing to need. So as I said at the beginning, I think don't assume that you need the very best tool, CS Tech tool that's out there. There are a number of different options that can be best suited to where you are, your budget, your maturity as a business as well.
Yep. And I think related to that too, looking at, to what degree do you need to be high touch versus low touch, given the nature of your product and the sophistication of your buyer and those kind of things that if you have primarily high touch, you may not need as many automation platforms right off the bat. But, the flip side, if everything's low touch, then it may help you grow and scale faster too. So I think those are important things. So with that, we're coming to a close here. If people have other questions, we're happy to have you put them in the Q&A box, but we are trying to stay on our timeline. So if you think of something a little bit later and you want to pop it into the LinkedIn group, we would love that. But Jason, why don't you go ahead and share with us the Be Bold question and the 3 takeaways.
Yeah, so really enjoy this conversation. I think it's an evolving one. You know, we're seeing so much development around technology and customer success platforms, customer success as kind of a growth area as well. I think there were some posts that the guys at Gainsight and Forrester put this week around just the percentage increases we're seeing in the growth in customer success. So it's really exciting to see this. All of the vendors are putting more and more product sets out there, which is really good to see. So it's a really evolving field to be in as well for around the technology side. So really great to have this conversation as well. The Be Bold question. So again, we'd really like kind of thoughts from everyone here. What are you doing around this? And do put it in our LinkedIn group, or you kind of share it on Twitter with us. What creative ways have you or can you use technology to better drive scalable customer success, and try and think beyond your kind of CRM platform and your CS automation or CS management platform? So what other ways have you thought of seen benefits of that can help drive that scalable growth in your success deliverables? And then the 3 takeaways really based on what we've talked about here. So the first one is that there are different technology stacks. Jason talked through these, and they really do depend on where you are in your business growth, where you are with your customers. And so it's a journey you're on. There is an evolution of the technology stacks there, and we will share this later on. But there's no need to rush to have all the latest singing, all dancing technology too soon. You've got to get what's key for you at the right time. The second one is think about the tech tools that you internally use to manage customers. So your customer success management platform, your CRM platform. How do you get that 360 view of the customer, that single view of the customer, so that you've got all your data together, joined up in a consistent, shareable, actionable manner where you can make decisions from that in a single dashboard or single dashboards that you can share across the business? And I think that the third point is that there are still a lot of challenges and risks with implementing complex technology stack for customer success. So be very mindful of where you are in terms of your maturity. Do you have the resources to go through implementation? What level of implementation services are you getting from a platform provider, from any of the providers there? What levels of customer success are they providing you with? It's a very interesting dynamic working in customer success and then having a partner provide you with customer success. It puts you in a very, very good position. But kind of think about the level of complexity and how you need to manage that. So they're the 3 key takeaways. We do hope you've enjoyed this. We've really enjoyed doing it. We've got our next one coming up in June. So Jason and I will be sending out some comms on that. But
June
really enjoyed
18th
it.
for accelerating user and customer adoption. Hope you guys can join us for that.
And that I think is something that you are super passionate about, Jason, and you and Tritons do a lot of work around that. So I'm really looking forward to that one. So a big thank you from me, guys, for having us and listening.
Thanks so much. Really appreciate it. Have a good one. Bye now.
See you later. Bye-bye.